right, guys. What's going on? Today is the day. July 26th, 2026. So 7/26/26. And it's the premiere of Season 3 of A Dead City. So, yeah. Saw the episode just a little bit ago. A couple minutes ago I finished it. And we're going to talk about it. First 15 minutes, talk about general things. Then we'll get into the episode. And first and foremost, it's a good episode. It's not great by any means. Dead City's not a great show, but it's good. And it sets the tone for this season. And we'll get into that later. Hopefully you're doing well. You're safe and sound. Comic-Con. Got some Daryl Dixon news that it's delayed till next year, which stinks. But ultimately, it's going to be done next year. Daryl Dixon is the show, is the character. Is Norman going to be Daryl Dixon at some point? Remains to be seen. We just don't know. So, yeah, Tim, what's up, Tim? Yeah, I thought the episode was pretty good for what it is for the show. You know, let Negan be Negan. That's what the show needs to be. And I think the show would be so much better if it was just Negan. Maggie holds it back. What's up, Negan? So last Sunday was Walking Dead. It was World Cup finale. Spain ended up winning, just dominating the entire team, entire game, everything. Argentina just got outplayed, outclassed. Just was very not okay. Some of the things they did, but either way, Spain won. The better team won for sure. So, what else are we watching? So, some big news in the world of pop culture and everything was Comic-Con was, or I think still technically is going on today. A lot of Marvel stuff, a lot of stuff, everything going on there. You know, the big thing is that they had the Walking Dead panel on Friday, and it was just Dead City. And Gimple says, Norman Reedus posted that Daryl Dixon Season 4 is going to be next year in 2027, and Gimple said that as well. I think someone might have asked him that question, and during the panel, he said that it's 2027. So, is it going to be Feb? We have no idea of the date and the month and whatever of Daryl Dixon. But are they going to put it in February, so we have the February show? Are they going to put it after Comic-Con so we can have a Walking Dead Daryl Dixon panel in July? Like, I mean, is it there's remains to be seen what they want to do with it, because there would be really no reason to have a Walking Dead panel unless there's Walking Dead shows, one more season of the main show, Daryl Dixon, that show's ending, and if that's over, why? So a lot of questions on there. A lot of Marvel stuff happened. The trailer came out, and it's awesome. And it sets for December 18th you can buy tickets now. But they also spoiled in the Entertainment Weekly and different videos of Dead City that the person that's coming back this season, and we all know who it is because of the filming, and we posted this many months ago when they were filming last year, that the character's coming back is Beth. And they're like, how is this possible? Well, obviously it's a what-if scenario because Beth died in season, was it 4? Season 4, I think it was what? It's either 4 or 5. But season 4, Beth died at the hospital. You know, it was a good story for Beth at the hospital with the Grady Memorial cops, and it was actually a good thing. And that's what happens in the Walking Dead universe is you start to like a character. Well, Beth was like a no-name character. She was just Maggie's sister. She had her little story of she didn't want to live and she wanted to commit suicide, but then she lived and she did this, and then she was singing and she was there and she had relationships and whatever. It didn't work out for her. And then she's kind of a smaller character, nothing really big about her, but then she branched out with Daryl and became more of a likable character and more this, and then she had a little more story, and then you kill her off. Because they want the deaths to be impactful. And when she comes back, we'll be able to see the what-if scenario of Maggie and Beth, you know, being sisters still in not the zombie apocalypse, but ultimately a different world that didn't have there as well. So, but Rich Pyle says, "Hey, bro, I've been watching your videos since the pilot Walking Dead episode. Glad to see you're still keeping up with it." Thank you, I appreciate it. So, Dead City, I wasn't the most excited about this show because of the trailer and the this and whatever, but we'll get into it in about 10 minutes. But it was better than I thought, and I don't know who said it in the chat, but before, it's like, keep your expectations low and you'll never be disappointed. And it's kind of true. Like, I don't have the biggest hope for this show, and it can only be better than what I'm thinking because I don't have the biggest expectations of it. When we build up so much of the Walking Dead universe or Marvel shows or Marvel movies or this and that and whatever, it's a lot to think, and will they exceed expectations? Most likely not. Will you be above average? Will you be average? Will you be there? Like, I'm excited for Avengers Doomsday, and I have high expectations, but I don't expect it to be the world's best movie ever. I like the connections and the callbacks to previous, Marvel stuff and the XMEN and everything, obviously. But, it is what it is. I watched the Reacher trailer for the next season, season 4, I want to say. But it comes out August 12th, I think. So a lot of stuff will be in August. I mean, the episode, season 3, episode 1 of Dead City is available now on AMC Plus, and you can watch it tonight on AMC. And it's good because it's a Walking Dead universe show. It continues some certain things, and there's callbacks and connections that we'll get into in a little bit. But ultimately, Comic-Con going on is still strong. It's still very much connected with pop culture, and it is setting the tone more with Marvel than anything, in my opinion. But Marvel's getting a resurgence again with all the people coming back, and the big news about the next Ghost Rider is Ryan Gosling, which, I don't know, that's fine. It is what it is. And, Doomsday, and then Avengers Secret Wars, and so they're going to have a bunch more Avengers stuff, and this Friday is Spider-Man Brand New Day. So a lot of stuff going on in the world of the MCU, and the animation with X-Men 97 is pretty good. Excited to see where that goes, and I believe season 3 is finished, so that should hopefully come out next year too. So yeah, Rich says, I like Negan before I say this, but in my opinion, the show took a dip when he showed up. And, the main show definitely changed. Like, they didn't know how to have Negan and Rick and who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who's this, because Negan was just trying to protect his people, but our guy was Rick Grimes, and then you're going to have this other alpha big character that's going to set the tone, and it just really complicated things. And either way, I like Jeffrey Dean Morgan being Negan. He could be a little bigger, because I'd be like, Negan is a just bigger guy physically. But Jeffrey Dean Morgan does a great job of acting and his development of the character and his delivery of the lines, and it's just pretty cool too. So Hardix says, hi, I'll just check it in. Wedding anniversary is today. Going to focus on that. Well, as you should, Hardixy, but thank you for popping in and saying hello. Happy anniversary. Hopefully it's a great time and enjoy it, and you're doing something, fun and exciting or memorable. If it's a vacation or dinner or whatever, that's pretty cool. Just coming in too. So, Tim says, have I seen the advertising of I Play Rocky? Looks interesting. Yes, I have, and it does look good because I know all those pieces of information that they're going to say in the movie, that Sylvester Stallone wrote the script, and he wrote it in 3 days, and he was going to sell the script, but he said no, and the title says I Play Rocky is because Sylvester Stallone was wanting to play Rocky, that he would not give up the script for any number of, amount of money. But that changed his trajectory of his life, because imagine if he had the script, sold it to MGM or whoever it was, and then they took off and they did whatever they want with it, and then he went off with his money. But Rocky put him on the map. Rocky set his whole career in motion, And it's kind of crazy to think that. And the story's good. It's a great story from Sylvester Stallone, and they'll get into the budget and the time and the money and all the things that he said in multiple documentaries. But I'm excited to see it. It's a story that's near and dear to me because Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, Philadelphia, everything. It's pretty cool too. So yeah. So Negan is sticking up for Negan. It makes sense. But no, that's the question. Negan was clearly the bad guy. Right? Like, obviously. Like, I mean, we're following Rick. A good guy and a bad guy is a matter of perspective, right? Like, if you are Rick Grimes or Daryl or, people that are connected with our group of people that we saw, Negan is the bad guy. Negan came in, did this, killed two beloved characters. But if you're a Negan fan, if you're a Negan person, Rick is clearly the bad guy. Rick is clearly the aggressor. They killed all these people at the base, and they did all that, even though they blocked the barricade, they blockaded the road with the guy on the bikes, and it's all debatable. And that's the good thing about it, is it's all about perspective. But it depends on which side you're on. And if you're Team Rick, then obviously Negan's the bad guy. If you're Team Negan, you're not going to say Negan's the bad guy. You're going to say Negan's the good guy. And that's the good thing about it, is who's right. I don't know. It's debatable. And that's the whole big thing about it too, is, they always want to try to do that. I remember Stan Lee was talking about when you had big fights and big connections with crossover comics with like Wolverine versus the Hulk or whoever. He said he always wanted to make it a tie. Because who would actually win is you'd want to have it up for discussion and debate, which is very smart because, one, they're fictional characters. This is not as real life. But even in real life, who is wrong in a situation is always up for debate. And, it's kind of a good thing to talk, good discussion point. Obviously, like, there's certain things that are just pretty obvious. Like if you're sitting at a red light and you're stopped, and you're not parked, but you're having the brake and you're waiting there, and a car comes up behind you and speeds and doesn't slow down quick enough or doesn't stop at all and rams in the back of you, that person's clearly at fault because they weren't obeying the rules of the road and they were driving recklessly and being pretty stupid and inconsiderate and just dumb. But in their mind, they'd be like, why didn't that person move up? Or why didn't the red light? Like, it'd be pretty stupid for that to be it. But in their mind, they could do that. And not to say that is the right mindset. Obviously, I'd be with the person that's sitting at the stoplight as they were doing their job, or you were minding your own business doing anything and you were caught in the problems. But it's kind of funny that people may even have that aspect too, and that's a crazy over-the-top scenario. But even then, the person that they were, and especially if the person's an egomaniac or a narcissist or a psychopath, they would be like, yeah, how dare you stop at this red light? That's ridiculous. So ultimately, guys, we got a lot going on, a lot of stuff going on for the summer. Movies, shows, pretty awesome stuff. So August is a pretty big month because this next week is the last week of July. We got Dead City for 8 episodes. And then we got, Reacher, you got Hard Knocks, you got the football season, you got different shows and other movies that are coming out. So it's exciting. It's a lot of good stuff. House of the Dragon still going strong. It's awesome. If you're bored and you can't find a show, you're just not looking that hard for something to watch. Because there's something everywhere all the time. Like I talk to my patients all the time. Like, what shows are you watching? What do you got? And some people watch Netflix. Some people don't. Some guys watch old Western shows. And they watch the old ones, and I'm like, you watch the same episodes? He's like, sometimes I do. It's pretty crazy that they're watching the same episode over and over again. But if they're watching, Rifleman or True Grit or Gunsmoke or whatever that stuff is, not my era of shows, but people love that. And now there's all this new stuff on television too, on Netflix. And we're finishing up The Hawk with Will Ferrell on Netflix. We got one more episode. And we have 3 more episodes left of Home Improvement, so we're going to finish that out this month, so we should make it and no problems. But the Hawk is silly and over the top, and I like Will Ferrell, so the shows are okay, but it's definitely interesting as well. Negan says, like George Carlin said, everybody driving faster than you is a maniac. Anybody slower than you is an idiot. Exactly, right? We're in our own little bubble, and we're just driving along, minding our own business, and do, you know? All right, guys, so let's talk about the episode. So the first 15 minutes, just good stuff, you know, overall topics. Spoiler warning for Season 3, Episode 1 of Dead City. So it's a pretty good episode. And they're basically getting rid of everything they did before. Not everything, because the Dama is still going to be the main villain, especially how it ends. So the episode starts with these 2 guys that you see at the beginning of the episode and the end of the episode, and they are working for the New Babylon Marshals. Some guy named Sarge, or a girl, some person named Sarge, and they put up a wanted poster, again with the wanted posters, of Negan and Maggie, wanted dead or alive. And they hear noises inside the building, and they put this little nail in the door, and they attach the paper flyer, wanted poster, and then it flies away, CGI way, around the whole entire city, like it's really ridiculous. But it flies around the entire city, the CGI city, and they show you this, and they show you New York City, blah, 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 like you've seen it a bunch of times. And then it goes into the woods, and we see Maggie finishing up a grave that's for Ginny. And the dinosaur is there, and they have a cross made of some wood sticks. And, you know, it's the classic zombie apocalypse stuff that someone died and they're burying it. Maggie's burying and dug the grave and finishing up the grave. As she's there, Negan comes out of nowhere in the woods. He's using Lucille, probably, what's this, Lucille 4.0 at this stage? As a cane. It's kind of funny. As a physical therapist, I'm like, oh man, that's pretty bad. But either way, using it as a cane, and he walks over and he's pissed because he wanted to take care of the grave and his job was to protect Ginny, and he didn't do it, and he's like, you know, just having the whole, you know, just being sad and let down for not accomplishing his task of protecting the child. And Maggie and him go back and forth. They curse a bunch of times. Negan uses the S word like 40 times in one phrase. Like, it's pretty crazy. And then Maggie curses back at him and doing this. And Maggie says, all right, enough of this. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of this. Here, take this knife and stab me so we'll be even. Because at the end of last season, Maggie stabbed Negan in the back. Literally. And so as Maggie gives Negan this little tiny knife, and she's going to count to 10 seconds, and he's like, I'm going to stab you, I'm going to do it, and she's like, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and before Negan's about to stab her, these 2 people come out of nowhere, and it's a brother and sister, and I forget their names. I think Tim says Renata and someone else, but either way, they're 2 new characters, brother and sister, and I don't know if Maggie actually said Negan, the name, but she says, we overheard you say his name was Negan. What are you, just watching them in the woods? Like, what? Either way. But they come in with these 2 shotguns, and they tie up Negan's hands and Maggie's hands, and they're taking him down the street because they're going to take him back to the Croat. So the Croat turns out to be, you know, Negan, an imposter Negan, trying to be just like Negan, to lead like Negan. But before that, you see the walkers in the tanks, and someone puts a bomb on the tank at the very beginning. This is actually the beginning of the episode. You see the tanks, and you see the bomb that's put on there too. Turns out to be the Croat blows up the tanks and blows up half of, you know, the area, Midtown or whatever, and kills probably some of the New Babylon Marshals. We don't see that happen, but we're guessing. And so it's kind of a thing that sets up the tone for later on. The Croat, because the Croat turns out to be the one who blows up the tanks. He has a bite on his chest, or a scratch. He has a scratch on his chest, and he's dying or he's bleeding. I don't even know if it's from a walker or whatever, but either way, he bleeds out and dies later on the episode. And Negan puts him down before he can reanimate. And so Croat is gone. And, as the new people are taking Negan and Maggie down the street, Herschel comes out of nowhere. And in the trailer scene where the explosion is, Herschel is thrown out of the way. And that's when the explosion happens from the tanks that the Croat caused. And Herschel left the Dama. Turns out that he is a nice kid now and cares about his mom. And is just going to be a good, not annoying teenager like the first 2 seasons that the writers were probably like, let's change that because he's so unlikable. Now he's a nice guy that's going to play well and help his mom and just be useful. It's kind of annoying, the whole teenage angst, going against your parents nonsense. But Negan and Maggie are still like hands are tied behind they're zip tied behind their backs, and they slide down this chute that's like a grate in the street that goes underneath a building, and all these walkers come down too. So Negan and Maggie can't just easily kill the walkers, and it's a whole big thing. And Negan pushes over a shelf and knocks this, and there's this walker that has all these like signposts and things in his chest and back, and it's kind of like a Wilson walker from the Trash People. And Negan's upside down, and he's like, oh, you get the honor, and he's gonna just be happy to die. But then Herschel comes out of nowhere and kills the walker, and just a whole bunch of fight scenes like that too with the walkers, and the Maggie throws down a thing with antlers and knocks the walker down, and they're safe. And then they end up getting free. And as the 2 new people, the brother and sister, they are walking and they got to find Negan, the Croat comes flying out of nowhere and hits this walker and knocks the walker over, and he struggles to get up. And then you find out the backstory. So all that happens. There's a cutscene that says 4 months earlier. So we find out that, I'm guessing her name, like I said, like Tim said, Renata and his and her brother are having a party in some building in New York City. And someone's having a baby, and it's a celebration, and it's nice. And the Croat comes in, and he's just like Negan. He's got his saviors. It's a protection racket. He's basically role-playing as Negan. He's trying to be Negan. And it's kind of a nice call. It's a little cheese, but it's also like good because it's a callback. And I love the callbacks and the connections and everything. And that's kind of what this is. So they're like, well, we didn't sign up for this. We didn't sign up for your protection, so we don't need it anymore. He's like, oh, is that true? He's like, well, I'm a doctor, and I'm teaching people how to do that. Well, that's good. Doctors are a resource. So, again, he keeps quoting these Negan lines and being Negan, the next Negan. And he's like, Negan! And when he sees Negan do, he's like, Negan! He has that little over-the-top voice. And so, but he ends up setting up a thing that says, all right, well, show me your worth. And he reaches behind and stabs, I think, their father in the gut, which would not be an easy wound to repair. He ends up dying. And then Croat also kills the father of the baby that's going to be born. She's not born yet. I don't know if it's a boy or girl. But either way, the baby that's going to be born. And so it sets up this whole thing, and you see the Croat is trying to be Negan and this, and trying to turn the protection racket and whatever. And it makes sense because that's kind of a way to control things and the power and whatever. But, the classic that the brother wants to kill the Croat and the sister's like, don't do it. It's not worth it. Whatever. Like, okay. But they need the Croat because they need the power. And the Croat, as he's dying, says, what do you think that explosion was? I blew up the tanks. I'm not going to let the New Babylon Marshals take it over. I'd rather destroy it. And he did. And so, but there's still some tanks left, and there's some stuff to do, and so there is some stuff. Like, he didn't destroy all the tanks. So the methane gas is a game changer. You know, they're all about having the power, and it's a pretty good resource that can be used throughout the world. And I hope that's kind of the end game going forward, is that they use this technology from the Croat to actually be useful with the walkers to develop the power source to rebuild society, as the engineers can put stuff back in place and rebuild the world. But we'll have to see if they're eventually going to do that or not. Hopefully there's some ending that makes sense. But either way, they're keeping the Croat alive to say, take us to the tanks. We need this on there too. And so Negan, the brother that was going to kill the Croat, was like, they were going back and forth, and Maggie says something to Negan like, you're just going to let this happen? You're not going to stop it? He's like, no, I'm trying to get this ball in the cup. And he's playing with the little kid's toy. It's pretty funny. And then Negan's like, well, I'm going to go get a drink. So he leaves. And he goes to the bar. And this is where we meet Dillard. And so Dillard's another new character, because every season we have new characters. And you see these two walkers in the bar. There's one walker at the bar and one sitting at a table. And then this guy comes out. And Negan's kind of hiding. And the guy's just talking to the walkers like he's okay with it. And Negan's like, what is going on here? And the guy's actually really nice. So he talks to Negan. He's like, you want a drink? He's like, sure. And so the guys, the walkers make the noise like, making all these crazy moans and groans. And Dillard acts like he can understand what he's saying, which is totally crazy and totally nonsense, but not in a dangerous way. He's a bartender and he's got all these things, but he's living in there alone. And he's been living in this building. And as people died in the building, he took over the floors of the building, and he's now have a whole ecosystem that's kind of funny. So, yeah, it's like Mason Dillard is his name. He said, I'm Dillard. And that's his last name. And when Maggie comes in to talk, because Negan and Dillard are talking, he says, I'm Mason Dillard. She's like, yeah, nice to meet you, is what I got out of it. But so Dillard has this whole pretty awesome setup that he has the walkers that are in a room, and then the maggots that are decomposing from the walkers are in another room with frogs, that the frogs eat the maggots, and then the turkeys eat the frogs, and then he has turkey meat. And so he's got this whole setup that he never has to leave the bar and the room and the building. So eventually that's probably going to be ruined. But, as every time The Walking Dead, our group goes there, they destroy it. So, but Dillard's in the thumbnail, so it's Maggie, Dillard, and Negan at the bar. And so Negan goes with Maggie because Maggie's like, I need your help, I need this, blah, 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 and her too. So then Negan leaves with Maggie, and Dillard hangs out at the bar. And so they bring Croat out of the building, and they're walking down the road. So it's the Croat, the brother and sister, Herschel, Maggie, and Negan. And they're killing walkers. They're doing this. And Herschel's like, we got to find a place. We got to do this. And the guy's like, we don't know where to go. What are we going to do? And Negan's like, I think I know where to go. So they go to this Croatian building, or a building that has a Croatian flag outside of it. And they end up finding one of the tanks that are in there. And they take the tank back to the building that the brother and sister's family's at. And the mom is about to give birth. And they feel like they need a incubator for when the baby is born, so they need the power for that, and that's what they're doing with those. So the incubator has power because they hook up the tank. And the brother goes into another room, and the dad is still a walker in another room, and I'm guessing the brother killed the walker and put him in a tank, and that's how they were generating the power from actually him and the methane gas for that. And so it's all good, and they decide like what to do, and Negan gets patched up because one brother is like a doctor, or he knows some medicine, and they're in a hospital, obviously. And so Negan gets patched up, and Maggie is talking with the sister, the new person of the sister, brother and sister, Renata, I think is her name, and they're like, why do you want to leave? Why don't we just stay here? And she's acting like she's best friends with Maggie now. Like, hey, we could take over this place. We could do this. And you're like, what? And then Maggie's talking about the bricks. Totally doesn't care about Hilltop anymore, or any of those places connected with the main show. She's like, oh, when I go back to the bricks and I do this and I go back, and you're like, that's kind of weird that you just gave up on Hilltop and everything, any sort of connection that way. And also, someone asked Maggie, Lauren, at Comic-Con about, could we see a connection with Daryl and Carol at the end? And she said yes, because the way this season ends is very open-ended and will possibly could be where they get a call from Maggie, or Maggie gets a call from Daryl and Carol, and we could set up that too. So will that be a possibility for them to connect? I hope so. Possibly, potentially, we don't know what their plan is, but that'd be pretty cool if that comes around again for season 4 of Dead City. That, not to say it will, but she left it open-ended, and so that's what they're going to clearly do this season, is that they're going to leave it open for the future of The Walking Dead, because that'll be the last show on television unless they keep adding shows or connections with because Daryl Dixon ends next year. So all is good. They're doing this. Everyone's happy. The baby's saved. They have the power. Negan's going to leave. And Maggie's like, I need your help. I don't want to do this without you. I need your help, blah, blah, blah. So they're really building that bond. They're coming together to set up the big fight going forward. And they're going to work together finally. They're going to be a team. They're going to work together, which is going to be, chaos and problems, because the Dama is still out there. And the New Babylon Marshall people are still out there. So we're going to have those be the villains, obviously. And so Negan, they have their little back and forth and blah, blah, blah. And Negan says, you know where to find me. And Maggie says, that bar? And Negan leaves the hospital and walks down the street and just walks right into the bar. It's just wide open. Like, the door's open. And Negan goes in there. At the end, you see the dust and the debris from the explosion, from the Croat. And this is the way the episode ends. You see these two people like hobbling down the center of the street, and they're like wounded, and they're all dusty and gross and whatever from the explosion, from the debris. They put a trash can to block the walkers from getting to them, and they hide behind the trash can. And it's the two guys that put the flyer up of the Maggie and Negan wanted. And it's all dust and debris on them. The one guy has a wound on his leg, and he's using a flyer on there as the dressing. And I don't know if it's a walker bite or just a wound or whatever. Doesn't really matter. But they're just sitting there behind the trash cans, and this person comes out of the alleyway, and it's the Dama. And she's like, oh, you guys, oh, we can rebuild, and we can do this, and revolutions come from this, and whatever. And so she has these two people to help her. Because Herschel has nothing to do with her now, so she's going to still be the villain. So you're going to have to deal with her, and that's how the episode ends. But then, after the episode ends, they show you, like, this season of there. And, we're going to have all these connections with New York City. They're going to open it. He has a one-poster bandage, exactly. And so, they get the power back on. The lights are eventually going to come on later this season. People on the boats are going to be coming to New York, and it's going to be like Ellis Island, the connection with New York City, just like all the immigrants coming from Europe and everywhere to come through New York, kind of a thing. Which is fine. That's kind of what the design of New York City was, and, that's why not connect to that too. So, I don't know how much the Dama is going to be a pain, but she will. I don't know how much the New Babylon Marshals are going to be a pain, but they will. And so we'll have to see, twists and turns, and stuff happens, and killing walkers and everything else. But there's really no reason why they can't, just work together, right? And I know Negan is wanted by the New Babylon Marshals because he killed people before, and that's never going to stop. But ultimately, we'll have to see how it ends. There's been no talk if there's going to be more seasons of Dead City that I've seen or whatever. Hopefully, there will be at least one more. Because if Maggie, Lauren Cohan, said that the season 3 ending is going to be open, and I'm not mad at it, but it felt like this season was going to be like the previous stuff doesn't matter. The Croat's gone. His technology is going to live on with his methane gas, electrical power, ability. The Dom is still going to be there. But Herschel's finally going to be a useful, good character. Maggie and Negan are going to work together. And it's just kind of like we're going down this path of season 3 of the show. And I mean, I think the show could really benefit from another Walking Dead cast member. But we're going to get Beth, but that's not going to be a main character. It's going to be a 1-episode thing that happens. So we knew that Beth was going to be seen again because in filming, they filmed actually in New York by the fountain and all that stuff. And so she'll be there. We also saw Maggie and Negan walking around New York City as if nothing was a problem. It was a normal thing. There was no zombie apocalypse. I don't know if they were supposed to be together or married or whatever. It's funny that their two are Batman's parents in, was it Batman vs. Superman? I don't know. But, yeah, that... So clearly, Lauren and Jeffrey D. Morgan love working together, and they have a good chemistry and everything. And Lauren wasn't, or Maggie wasn't annoying this episode. Herschel wasn't annoying. It was good. It worked out very well. It was. I think they figured out a way to be like, let's stop rehashing this too. And Maggie wants to move on, and Negan wants to move on, and now they can finally move on. But it was nice that they had callbacks and connections, because even the Croat had a knife, and he was like, well, let's figure out who is worth it here. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. He was doing the little eeny, meeny, miny, mo gag. So Tim says, was it Percy, the Babylon fellow? We will see him again, you think? Yeah, we'll see Percy Armstrong again. Yeah, he'll be back. I believe we see him in the trailer. I can't remember, but I think Percy will be back for sure. Because they're going to need an ally in New Babylon Marshals to help them. And ultimately, I think Negan and Maggie are too big of characters to kill off, and even Herschel now too. But every character they've brought in so far, besides the Dama, is dead. Right? Like, the Croat just died in this episode. Kim Coates' character last season died. All the new people that were helping Negan and Maggie died. Like, it's very... Percy Armstrong is the only other one that should still be alive. And so, they got to get their footing. They have a new showrunner that it's a pretty good episode to start this season. I hope it makes sense going forward. Because Maggie is all talking about, well, let's try and make this our home. The Croat says, you can make this place a fortress. And it's true, because it's an island. There's only one way in, one way out. And if you block the boats and the ships from getting in from all over, you can control who comes in. It can be a good vital port. And I hope that there's no notion of this yet, but I hope that this show is one of, if not the last show of the Walking Dead universe that talks about rebuilding the world and rebuilding the United States. And the callbacks and connections with the birth of the nation, which, would be Philadelphia, New York City, and then obviously Washington, D.C. and Boston, and then the whole Northeast, really. But if the show really takes place in New York, you could still have connections with Philadelphia, which would be the Civic Republic, which Connect the dots. Like, let's get this going. Enough of this, like, oh, Maggie and Negan are going to take over the entire city of New York City. Like, that's kind of ridiculous, right? You can't do it without people. You can't do it without an army. You can't do it without a bunch of connections. And so I think they can do it, but I think you got to connect the dots with the series. And I think the show is, I don't know if I really want a final season of The Walking Dead. I think you just have a final season of Dead City and you bring everybody to that. But again, I don't work for AMC. I don't work for all that, but I think that it makes sense for that to happen in a way that, are we going to get the callbacks? Are we going to get connections? Like, it would be pretty great if Negan and Rick and Daryl and Carol and Maggie, like, you don't have to have everybody. We don't need Father Gabriel and Aaron and Jerry and Ezekiel and you know we don't need everybody to come back. But if you get Michonne, if you get Rick, or just get Rick. I don't even know if Denai Guerrero wants to be Michonne anymore. Hopefully she does, because Michonne's my favorite character and Denai's awesome. But if she doesn't, then just get Rick. Because we want Rick, the reunions with Rick and Daryl. You know, we want to see those things. And so Maggie and Negan are going to need help. It's ridiculous for them to think about them just being the only people that can be, you know, taking over an entire giant city, New York City. I mean, that's crazy. But you can do it with the Commonwealth soldiers and Mercer. The Civic Republic people can come in. That would be awesome. Like, I think that's the best way to wrap it up. Be the final connection. Like, we always thought The Walking Dead will have a final big, huge battle, like Endgame, of the Civic Republic military versus the Commonwealth. And now you could just have it be the New Babylon Marshals could be the bad villain there too. And now we have the Commonwealth, the Civic Republic people, Rick, Daryl, Carol, Mercer, taking that over. And then now we have Energy, and we have Eugene figure out how to do it with it. You know, like, there's just a lot of possibilities. And I really hope that is, you know, the way they go about it. We need some fan service. We need some, you know, just wins for the Walking Dead universe. And if you say this is the final series of the Walking Dead universe, and you give little teases, and you talk about reunions, and you won't want to miss it, I think people will come back. Like, I have no idea how many people watch Dead City, Daryl Dixon. But we all know that The Walking Dead was the main show, and all the spin-offs did worse and worse and worse and worse. Like, Fear the Walking Dead did pretty well numbers-wise at the beginning, but it was a major letdown because it was like The Walking Dead in its heyday had a spin-off, and you're like, oh, I got to check that out. But it wasn't good. It was like the Yellowstone, right? So Yellowstone was the main show, like The Walking Dead, and then you had a spin-off, and it's called Marshals, and it's not very good. And then you have Dutton Ranch, which is good. So they went off in different tangents with Marshals and Casey and Beth and Rip and Dutton Ranch, but you have two different ways of spinning it off. With The Walking Dead, it was Fear the Walking Dead, World Beyond, Ones Who Live, Daryl Dixon, Dead City, a lot of spinoffs. And I don't know if we need another spinoff, and I don't know if we need a final season of the main show, but whatever you call it, whatever you do, it doesn't matter if it's a spinoff or the main show or Dead City. Just wrap it all up. Bring it all together. Because it looks like Dead City is kind of like doing new stuff every season. And season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead was a total reboot. They brought Morgan in. We still have Alicia, Strand, whatever. Okay, but it felt like a restart. And the same thing with Dead City. It doesn't need a reboot, restart, anything. I just think it needs more connections with The Walking Dead. And if that's going to be it, wrap it all up. And I think it would be pretty cool to see that. Because I know we all want that, right? Whoever's watching this now live and then on, replay, I think we can agree, and please let me know your thoughts on this, is what do you want to see how the final episode is going to be? The last episodes of the Walking Dead universe, whatever it is, Dead City, Walking Dead, some other show. What do you want to see? What do you want? How do you want it to end? How do you want there to be? What has to happen for you to feel like, all right, that was exciting, that was good? I think majority of people would say reunions. Rick and Daryl. Rick and Morgan. Carol, Daryl coming some around. Even Judith seeing Daryl again. Like, there would be nice, heartfelt moments. And you can connect the dots with that, too. Like, you know, some people are thinking that Norman Reedus said that Daryl Dixon is done with Daryl Dixon. But Norman can still play. If they called up Norman and were like, we're doing a reunion show, final show, wrap it up, you're going to see Andrew Lincoln again, you're going to be reunited with Rick. Daryl's going to see Rick again. I doubt Norman Reedus would be like, nah, I'm good. I think he'd be like, sign him up. Sign me up. Because I think Daryl, well, Norman, is like one of the biggest aspects of the Walking Dead universe. Just like Rick. Daryl's right up there. So some people like Rick, some people like Negan, some people like Michonne, Maggie, Daryl, Carol. But Daryl's top 5, for sure, top 3. You know? And it would even be like, even Daryl and Negan's reunion would be like interesting to watch. Like, I think you can do it in a way you can just wrap things up and make it fit. And at the end of the day, the Walking Dead universe has jumped a bunch of sharks. So it doesn't matter if it's ridiculous or stupid or over the top, unless it doesn't make sense in a way that we don't want to see it. And it's like coming home to your friends and family that you haven't been home, your childhood home. But seeing those guys together would be awesome. And not to say it will, because we got a whole bunch of 7 more episodes of Dead City where we're going to have to, defeat the Dama. If again, I don't know if the goal is to get a 4th season out of Dead City, but I think so. I hope so. Like a final. If Daryl got 4 seasons, Dead City should at least get 4 seasons too. But we'll have to see how it goes down with the universe of that and The Walking Dead as a whole. And the big thing, the news was that Daryl Dixon is pushed to 2027. And I don't know, like I said, I didn't watch the panel of Dead City, and maybe you guys know if you've seen any of the panels or any information. But, Daryl being pushed back to next year is just making sure that we have Walking Dead content for next year. I don't know when it's going to be, released, if it's February or the summer or whatever, or that'd be really crazy if you wait till October next year. My guess would be either February or the summer around Comic-Con. And, if you wait too long, it's going to be kind of crazy to be like, man, that is forever long ago. And I don't know if I think diehards will watch no matter what. They say every show is the best, every episode's the best, every character's the best, every story's the best. And then the casual fan may not watch anymore. Maybe they check it out on Netflix, because I know you can watch Daryl Dixon on Netflix now. And I'm sure AMC is selling the rights to the show or whatever you have to the to Netflix, because it's a money maker that they want to make money off of, So you're leasing it out for so long. But other than that, guys, the episode's pretty good. If you haven't seen it yet, hopefully you have. And it just works, you know. I like where they're going with it because it was really annoying time and time and time and time and again that Maggie's sulking over here and annoying to see Negan, and it makes sense that she would, but the forced working together is like the world is a huge place, and for Maggie and Negan to be in the same city, let alone the same building, the same area, just seems uncalled for, you know. But they were forced together because the Damos got Herschel and they got to work together and this and, you know, whatever, and the Croat and whatever. But it worked. And now we got to this point. Now that we're here, how do we move forward? Because Maggie and Negan are going to continue to work together, but what does it bring for their future? I don't want to see a romantic relationship. I know some people are saying that that's going to happen. And if it does, it needs to be in the what if scenario that's not real. But Maggie and Negan are going to build a connection that's useful for the show. And then where does it go from there? We'll have to see. But again, the writers can do whatever they want because they are. But as an executive producer, hopefully you have a little more say. And Lauren Cohan and Jeffrey Dean Morgan are both executive producers. What if one was like, yeah, let's do this, and the other one's like, nah, I don't think so. And then Gimple comes in, like, who would Gimple side with? Like, well, I'm not saying this has happened, but what if, like, Negan's like, or Jeffrey Dean Morgan goes, let's have Negan and Maggie get together. And Lauren's like, yeah, I don't want that. I want to do that. I wonder who Gimple would be the tie break vote to be down, you know. That's true. Tim says a good point. My wife said a good point too. Is Negan has a wife and a kid in where are they at? Iowa or something in the middle of the United States. They came back to the city. Negan saw them, said, "Tell them to go away." And they went away. Could they show up this season? What's going to happen with that? You know, I would like to see that actually have a one way or the other, that Negan saves them or they die. I don't know. Either way, like have some sort of, I don't want them to die, but have some sort of ending to it. You know, Nebraska. Yeah, that's what it was. Nebraska. Thanks, Tim. I hear Nebraska is nice. So they that's still open for the Negan character, but that's kind of risky too. Like Negan would just let his wife and kid just be in danger, be whatever potentially. Wouldn't you want to protect them and make sure they're okay? The not knowing would be so crazy there too, because you can't just call them. You can't just text them, email them, do a FaceTime, see what's going on. And maybe Negan, the whole thing was that Negan wanted to protect them because it's dangerous being around Negan, and if they caught him, they would probably kill whoever's around them, which is the idea. But why doesn't Negan leave and go to Nebraska then and see his... Because if Negan is always going to be wanted by the New Babylon Marshals, just get away from the New Babylon Marshals. This isn't the FBI. Like, you can go wherever you want, Negan. Get on a boat, get away from New York, get on a train, and go to Nebraska. Or whatever, however you'd get there, you know, whatever. And again, if you start trying to figure this out, it'll probably drive you nuts because it's definitely something that's not something it's going to understand for it to be. They can do whatever they want. The writing can be good or bad, and they can throw stuff that doesn't make sense at you all the time. Like From, right? So many people are still trying to figure out the show From. I went back and I watched the pilot episode, and they said the answers are in the pilot episode, and it came from this, and it came from there. But did they get all the talismans? Did they get this? They put the talismans in a tree, but they have the bones, and the bottle tree's going, and this is going, and this is whatever. And you're like, well, you can try to figure out as much as you want, but when the next season starts and the next episode airs, they can just say whatever they want. and they can go off on a tangent that makes sense, or they can explore a different route or whatever. They can just do some sort of writing that undoes all the things there too, like going forward. Or they can explore stuff and it makes sense and they actually explain it and we get it and we're not. But From is a whole different thing because that's a crazy show and we have 10 episodes left for that. But the same thing with Dead City. I don't know how many more episodes we're going to get out of this, right? And there can always be a new threat of people in the city or getting on a boat and coming to the city, right? That's never going to stop. That's why I said Negan's always going to be in danger with the New Babylon Marshals. And at this point, you can't kill off Negan or Maggie because it just wouldn't really work. And to be honest, I'd rather have Negan alive because I think Negan is way more important than Maggie in the Dead City show. And don't get me wrong, I like Maggie and I like Negan, but Negan just makes more sense of being charismatic and crazy and can just be more capable of story and just, I don't know, it just makes more sense. And Negan's open-ended. He can go wherever he wants. Maggie is always the leader of a community. But ultimately, we'll have to see what they want to do. And, you know, it works. It's just interesting for it. And we'll have to see what the future holds for... Because we've seen pictures and little clips here and there and the filming information for the rest of the season. We'll have to see, you know, we have the brother and sister that are going to be teamed up with Maggie, and Negan's going to be teamed up with Maggie. So Maggie's going to try to take over the city, and the Dama's going to fight that and team up with the New Babylon people and whatever. But Negan's got to hide out. Negan can't be all around because, again, he's a wanted person. Well, so is Maggie now, too. So Maggie and Negan are both wanted by them, so it doesn't even matter. Whoever's working with them is going to be in danger. And so I guess the brother and sister are going to play their part for this season, and then probably one or both will probably die. Dillard's setup there will probably be ruined because it's too good of a thing. When our group comes around, different communities or whatever they have, they ruin it. They cause all the problems. And, you know, we'll have to see what the writing is done for the future of that. But overall, it's entertaining. It is something to watch. And, you know, we still got... So it's crazy because in 2026, we still have Game of Thrones stuff to watch of House of the Dragon. And 2027, because, well, I don't know when the last season of House of the Dragon will be airing, but hopefully next year. And Daryl Dixon will be next year. Dead City this year. Still going strong. Somewhat. I mean, I don't know how strong, but it's still going, I should say. But at the end of the day, it's worth watching. Are you excited for it? Are you going to watch that? Are you excited for anything else, shows coming out or movies coming out this year? I'm really just mostly excited for Doomsday and, of course, Spider-Man, but we'll have to see what sets up for that for the future there. Unreal, the wrestling show, was pretty good. That's the third season of that. Quarterback, third season of that, which is pretty good. 2 good Netflix shows. A lot of good stuff on Netflix right now, which is always the case. Tim says, wonder if the breeze blowing wanted poster lands in someone villain hand. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a way to show the city was the wanted poster, and you're supposed to put them all around the city with the smallest little nail, and like didn't really put 2 nails in to hold it there, but it was just their way of flying this thing around to show you how the city is decaying and falling apart that we already knew. But New York City, a lot going on there too. The Northeast comes back to that. So we had the West Coast with Fear the Walking Dead that ended up coming back to the East Coast. The Walking Dead was Atlanta to Virginia to Ohio. You know, Ones Who Live, World Beyond, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Dead City, New York, Massachusetts, you know, with the New Babylon Marshals. Daryl Dixon is France, Spain. So we're getting a little more world, and it kind of sucks. I never say never, but I don't think they're going to connect the dots with the post-credit scene of The World Beyond with the Daryl Dixon show. That would have been pretty cool, but I don't think that. I mean, that could be something. I don't know how. I don't know how the Daryl Dixon show is going to end or connect, but those in France, not Spain, so it doesn't really work too. So. But thank you guys for watching and being a part of this live stream today, July 26th, 2026. So next Saturday is August 1st. So August 2nd is a week from now. We'll be back to talk about Daryl Dixon. No, maybe a little Daryl Dixon, but mostly Dead City. This is a Dead City time. So Dead City Season 3, Episode 2, and maybe a little Episode 1 and any other information we got from there. But let me know your thoughts. Post your comments below, guys. Appreciate you taking the time. Stay safe. Stay cool in this hot, crazy temperatures right now. I'll be back next Sunday to talk about Dead City and other stuff we're watching. And let me know your thoughts. Post your thoughts below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Remember, guys, with hard work, dedication, belief, and sacrifice, you can truly achieve your goals, whatever they are. Keep working hard at them. Thanks, you guys, and I'll see you guys. See ya!